Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told This podcast, where we like to dive deep into the stories behind everyday objects.
That's right.
Today, we're uncorking a tale that's both familiar and surprisingly complex, I think.
Yes,
The story of the wine bottle.
absolutely.
Joining me is our expert whose knowledge of history and design always adds, I think, a fascinating layer to our explorations.
I'm excited to delve into this. I think, wine bottles, though seemingly simple, hold centuries of tradition and innovation,
Yeah.
and even a bit of mystery, I would say.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so intriguing. We often take them for granted, but there's a whole world hidden within those curves and contours.
Right.
To start, let's talk about the sheer variety of sizes.
Right.
From your standard bottle to those biblical behemoths, Jeroboam's, Nebuchadnezzar's. It's like a wine-themed epic tale.
It is fascinating how those names from ancient history ended up on our dinner tables.
Right.
The largest, the Melchizedek, or Midas, holds a staggering 30 liters.
Wow.
That's enough to fill 40 standard bottles.
Good Lord.
Imagine the feast that would accompany such a bottle.
I mean, that's a party I would love to be invited to.
Absolutely.
But it makes you wonder, what kind of occasion called for such a massive vessel?
Right?
It speaks to a time when wine was more than just a drink, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was a symbol of abundance and celebration.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting that not all wines come in every size.
Right.
Champagne, for instance, has practical limitations with those larger bottles.
Right, I remember reading something about that. Is it related to the way champagne is made?
Exactly.
Okay.
The process of riddling, that intricate tilting and turning of the bottles to collect sediment, becomes incredibly difficult with those massive sizes.
Yeah.
Plus, transferring champagne into larger bottles after fermentation risks losing the precious bubbles and potentially oxidizing the wine.
So those giant champagne bottles are more about spectacle than practicality. It's a reminder that sometimes form follows tradition rather than function.
Well said. And speaking of form, let's move on to the shapes of wine bottles.
Okay.
I was surprised to discover how much variation there is, and how each shape often reflects a specific region or wine style.
It's like a visual language for wine, right?
Right.
Yeah. The tall, slender bottles of the Rhine and Moselle.
Yeah.
The sloping shoulders of Burgundy. The high shoulders of Bordeaux. Each one tells a story about the wine it holds.
Precisely. The shapes often evolved based on practical considerations, like storage or transportation, but they also became associated with the unique character of the wines from each region.
The bottle for Chateauneuf-du-Pape really caught my eye. It's almost like it's melting. What's the story behind that distinctive shape?
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Its origins are shrouded in a bit of mystery. Some believe the unique shape helped distinguish the bottles in dimly lit cellars, while others suggest it was purely aesthetic, perhaps inspired by the Pope's hat or the region's rich history. Whatever the reason, it's a bottle that certainly stands out on the shelf.
Yeah.
And hints at a story waiting to be told.
Before we move on, I want to remind our listeners,
Sure.
if you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of wine bottles, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the rest of this episode as we uncover more fascinating details about this everyday object.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about that foil covering the top of the bottle.
Right.
Is it purely decorative, or is there more to it?
I always find it a bit of a hassle to get through.
Right. It's a pain.
It might seem like a mere embellishment,
Okay.
but that foil has a surprisingly practical history. Originally, it served as protection against rodents and insects, particularly the dreaded cork weevil,
Oh, wow.
which could decimate a wine cellar.
So it was like armor for the cork, defending it from tiny invaders.
Exactly.
I hate that.
Over time, however, those early lead foils raised concerns about toxicity.
Yeah, I could see that.
Thankfully, we saw a shift to tin, plastic, aluminum, and various combinations thereof. Today, you'd be hard-pressed to find a lead foil, which is good news for both our health and the environment.
Oh, that's good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the gold wire netting I've seen on some Rioja bottles?
Yeah.
That always struck me as particularly elegant.
Right.
Is there a story behind that?
Oh, that's a fascinating tale. It dates back to the late 19th century,
Okay.
when a Rioja producer, the Marqués de Riscal, faced a problem.
Okay.
His wines were so popular, they were being counterfeited.
Oh, no.
To combat this, he ingeniously introduced the wire netting as a seal of authenticity.
Oh, that's smart.
It couldn't be removed without breaking it,
Right.
making it a powerful deterrent against imitations.
What a clever solution.
Yeah.
It adds a whole new layer of appreciation for that Rioja bottle. a symbol of both quality and ingenuity.
It's a reminder that every detail,
Yeah.
even something as seemingly insignificant as wire netting,
Yeah,
can have a rich and unexpected story.
absolutely. And there's one feature that's always puzzled me. That indentation at the bottom of the bottle,
Uh-huh.
the punt. Why is it there? What purpose could it possibly serve?
That's a question that has sparked endless debates among wine enthusiasts and historians alike.
I bet.
There are many theories, but no definitive answer.
Okay.
Some believe it's a remnant from the early days of glassblowing,
Right.
a byproduct of the techniques used to shape the bottle.
Okay, so just how they made it.
Others suggest it helps strengthen the bottle,
Okay.
especially for sparkling wines, which have to withstand considerable internal pressure.
So it acts like a built-in pressure release. That's fascinating.
It could also help with sediment collection,
Okay.
although modern filtration techniques make that less relevant today. And then there are the more creative theories. Some propose it was a marketing ploy to make the bottle appear larger,
Oh, interesting.
while others link it to a rather amusing tavern legend.
Ooh, a tavern legend. Now you've got me hooked. What's the story there?
Well, legend has it that some taverns used to puncture the punts of empty bottles to prevent them from being refilled and sold as their own. It's a colorful tale, but whether it's rooted in historical fact is debatable.
It's amazing how a seemingly simple feature like the punt can generate so much speculation and intrigue.
Yeah.
It goes to show that even in the world of wine, there are still mysteries to be solved. And it's a great segue into our next topic, the environmental impact of these ubiquitous glass containers.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a quick break to explore that side of the story.
Sounds good. That tavern legend certainly adds a colorful layer to the story of the punt.
Yeah, it does.
But as we shift gears,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to acknowledge that alongside the history and charm of wine bottles,
Right.
there's a growing concern about their environmental impact.
You're right. It's a bit of a conundrum.
Yeah.
We appreciate the elegance and tradition of those glass bottles, but we can't ignore the sustainability challenges they present.
Exactly. And one aspect that's often overlooked is the sheer volume of green glass
Yeah.
generated by wine consumption, particularly in regions with high import rates like the UK.
I was reading about that green glass surplus.
Yeah.
It's fascinating and a bit alarming to think that our love of wine could be contributing to a waste problem.
It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
Glass recycling is a positive step,
Right.
but green glass presents a unique challenge.
Okay.
It retains its color during the recycling process, meaning it can only be recycled into more green glass.
But you can't melt it down and make it clear again.
Right. In countries that import more wine than they produce,
Right.
this creates a surplus.
Right.
That's difficult to manage.
So it's not as simple as tossing our bottles into the recycling bin and assuming they'll be magically transformed into something new.
Right.
There are limitations and logistical hurdles to consider.
Precisely. And then there's the issue of weight.
Uh-huh.
Glass is heavy,
Yeah, it is.
which adds to the carbon footprint of transporting wine across the globe.
Oh, for sure.
Some experts suggest that shipping wine in bulk and bottling it closer to the consumer
Right.
could be a more sustainable approach.
That seems logical,
Uh.
but I imagine it would require a significant shift in the industry's infrastructure.
It would certainly involve investment and logistical adjustments.
Yeah.
But the potential benefits in terms of reducing emissions are significant.
For sure.
Some wineries are already exploring this model, recognizing the need to align their practices with a more sustainable future.
It's encouraging to see that kind of forward thinking within the industry.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who enjoy a glass of wine at home?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do as consumers to make more sustainable choices?
There are several things we can do.
Okay.
Supporting wineries that are actively embracing sustainable practices
Right.
is a powerful way to vote with our wallets.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can also be more open to alternative packaging options.
You're talking about boxed wine, those plastic bottles, even the Tetra Paks have seen popping up.
Exactly. Boxed wine, for instance,
Uh-huh.
gets a bad rap.
It does, yeah.
But it's actually a very sustainable option.
Okay.
The packaging is lightweight,
Right.
reducing transportation costs and emissions.
Yeah.
And the bag-and-box format is quite effective at preserving wine,
Okay.
keeping it fresh for weeks after opening.
So it's good for the environment and practical for everyday consumption. Maybe it's time to reconsider my preconceived notions about boxed wine.
It might surprise you. As for those newer plastic bottles and Tetra Paks,
Right.
they also offer advantages in terms of weight reduction.
Oh.
However, Concerns remain about their recyclability
Yeah, that's fair.
and the potential for the packaging materials to affect the taste of the wine.
Right, yeah. Nobody wants that.
It's an area where ongoing research and innovation are essential.
It seems like the wine industry is on the cusp of a major shift,
It is.
balancing the weight of tradition with the need for sustainable practices.
Uh-huh.
It's a fascinating and complex evolution to witness.
It is, and it's a reminder that even seemingly simple things, like a wine bottle, can hold layers of meaning
Absolutely.
and connect us to broader issues of environmental responsibility.
Absolutely. We've explored the history, the design, the mysteries, and now the environmental impact of wine bottles.
We have.
What a journey it's been.
And it's not over yet. There are still fascinating questions to explore,
I agree.
particularly when we look ahead to the future of wine packaging
Right.
and how it might continue to evolve.
That's a perfect segue into our final thoughts.
Yeah.
We've delved into the past and present, but what does the future hold for the humble wine bottle?
Right.
We'll ponder that after a quick message from our sponsors. Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told This podcast. We've journeyed through the history, design, and sustainability challenges of the wine bottle. But now let's turn our gaze toward the future.
Sounds good.
What innovations and trends do you see shaping the wine bottle of tomorrow?
That's a question that sparks the imagination.
It does.
I believe we'll see a continued emphasis on sustainable materials and designs. Lighter weight glass is a likely development, perhaps even incorporating recycled content.
Okay.
We've already seen some progress in that area, but I think the industry is only just scratching the surface.
That makes sense. Reducing the weight of the bottles would have a ripple effect on transportation costs and carbon emissions.
Precisely. And beyond just making the existing materials more eco-friendly, I think we'll also see a rise in exploration of alternative materials. Imagine bottles made from biodegradable polymers, essentially allowing them to decompose back into the earth after use.
Wow, that would be a game changer. A bottle that returns to nature, almost like the grapevines themselves.
It's a poetic thought, isn't it? But beyond the material itself, I think technology will play a significant role in shaping the future of wine bottles. Imagine a bottle with embedded sensors that can tell you the precise serving temperature for that particular wine, or even provide information about the vineyard and the vintage.
That would be incredible. It's like having a sommelier built right into the bottle.
Exactly. It could enhance the entire wine experience, adding a layer of knowledge and interactivity.
And I could see that appealing to both seasoned connoisseurs and those new to the world of wine.
Absolutely. It could demystify some of the complexities and make wine more approachable for everyone.
I also imagine we'll see a greater emphasis on personalization and storytelling. Perhaps bottles with unique shapes or labels that reflect the specific terroir or the winemaker's philosophy, turning them into miniature works of art.
I completely agree. The bottle could become an even more powerful tool for connecting consumers with the essence of the wine, conveying the passion and craftsmanship behind it.
It's exciting to envision a future where wine bottles are not just containers but also storytellers and even technological marvels.
And it's a reminder that even in a world of rapid technological advancement, there's still a deep appreciation for the artistry and tradition that goes into crafting a fine wine.
So to our listeners, the next time you hold a wine bottle in your hand, take a moment to consider its journey from the vineyard to the winery to your table, and ponder the possibilities for its future, knowing that this seemingly simple object is constantly evolving, reflecting our changing tastes, values, and aspirations.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. And thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the world of wine bottles. Until next time on Tell Me More Stories Told This podcast, keep exploring and stay curious.